Hello, beautifuls, and welcome to another episode of The Gifted Table. And today, I'm so excited. We are being graced with another leading man, and we're going to see what he's going to talk about today on The Gifted Table. All right, the Gifted Table family, today, pull up your seat nice and close. We have the one and only DB Bedford, who has so many hats he wears. I'm not going to even try to tell you everything he does, but he's a motivator. He's a speaker. He's an entrepreneur. He's amazing. So let's let him have his say at the table and tell us why he leads. Welcome, sir.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
The Gifted Table.
Thank you. Feel important.
Oh, you're so important. You're so important.
Thank you
So family, if you remember, a few months ago, we had a beautiful young lady on here who did hella keto. And she talked about her amazing father who inspired her and did all these things to help her branch out and do her thing. It is he. It is he. So tell us a little bit about who you are and what your mission is right now as a leading man in what you do.
I appreciate that. So my name is DB Bedford, and I am better known as the EI guy. And my mission in life is to get as many people as possible that want to listen to me to never let their emotions overpower their intelligence.
Emotional intelligence.
Exactly.
Is that the E and the I in what you do?
That's what the EI guy stands for. I'm the emotionally intelligent guy. I'm the one that most people know me for in terms of I'm real surgical with how we process emotions as things come our way. And so I take pride in being a thought leader in that space. And that's what I do. I like to help folks both personally and professionally.
So what are the tenets of emotional intelligence that you share, that you train people on, that are just the key things that we need to know for those who may not be familiar with emotional intelligence?
So I'll break down real quick. There's several ways to go about it. There's some principles, there's some ingredients that I like to call, right? But the framework of emotional intelligence is the ability to be self-aware, the ability to be able to manage the way you react to things, to be able to understand situational awareness, and your ability to manage the relationships around you. Those 4 domains, if you will, makes up the framework, the quadrant of how you can practice emotional intelligence. Are you self-aware? What do I mean by self-aware? Are in real time, do you know what your mood, your attitude, and your energy, which is the thing that's hidden in plain sight, do you understand what you're emoting, right? Are you ready to manage the way you react to things that you don't like, that you disagree with, right? Because what happens is that when we react to things a certain kind of way, it's because it bucks up against one of our beliefs.
Right.
And people skip over that because a lot of times people hear beliefs and they just think spiritual, or they think the bigger picture. But there are so many micro things that you believe in.
Practical things.
Right. And people are just not aware of that. And so as long as our beliefs align, we get along fine.
Right. As soon as, one thinks that the table should be cleaned all the way off, and someone goes, "What's the big deal?" Right.
You're starting to buck up against each other's beliefs.
Right.
And depending on how you were raised to react to things that don't go your way is what we usually start to see next, right? That's why emotional maturity is very important, because a lot of people's inner child just start acting up when they don't get their way, right?
Listen, I always say we're a bigger version of our 5-year-old self. I really believe that in some aspects we are just an adult 5-year-old, a little bit older, somewhat wiser, but like you said, let something trigger us and we kind of revert back to that childlike emotional state, but in an adult frame, I would say.
And it causes conflict because you look at an adult and you be like, why are you acting like that? You just don't understand it. And you don't have, most people, like what you say, don't have the insight to go, oh, it's the inner child, and it's not really you. It's the inner, and you, you have situational awareness, so you haven't done the work yet, because it's clear, because the way you responded is clear. You mad, right? It's breakfast, and you mad? Like, how can you be mad and you just woke up?
You just woke up.
Right.
You have a mad
Why is this little thing
right.
Right, why is this little thing that happened? Like, why do you care so much about Kanye West? Right? It's one thing to have a casual conversation about it. It's another to be mad and comment on everybody's things and everywhere you go. Why is that? And so that's what we're talking about, having that ability to be aware of how you're conducting yourself.
So now you're working with several, and have worked, and will continue to work with several different types of organizations, corporate, law enforcement, and all these things. In working with those different types of groups, what have you noticed some trends between the leaders who bring you in to want to share emotional intelligence with their teams?
Something that happened, right? You know what I mean? It's like something that happened, something is happening. A leader usually recognizes that it is not about the actual skill. It's more than that, and they need someone like myself to come to raise that awareness, because they don't either feel like they're the one to be able to do it. They don't really know how to go about doing it. So you're looking for someone to come in and create this new perspective, this strategic insight on the thing that is hindering the performance, that's lowering the morale, that is breaking down the communication, right? Because you just got to keep it real, right? Like, sometimes I ask people, what happened to your interview self? Right?
Oh, you do it like that.
Yeah, because
you mean the representative I brought to the table?
Yeah, you was bright-eyed and bushy-tailed on the other end of the table, right? And then if we was like, and as a matter of fact, we need you to sweep the roof too. You like, I used to sweep the roof when I was a kid.
Right, like,
you're willing. The it's a little humor in that, but what we're saying, you were very willing.
Yes.
You convinced, your employer they had a need, and you were the person for the job. And then 6 months later, we can't tell you anything. So what happens?
You done got permanent. So
and probably not even
beyond your probation period.
and probably not even, that is a good earmark, but more than likely, somebody has said or done something to you that you do not like. Yes. And it started to shift the way you received your assignment. So instead of coming to work bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, you're coming to work thinking about DB, your boss, your coworker, the office they gave you, the book they told you to read, the parking spot, whatever it is, and you haven't been able to process it. So now you're showing up every day, engaging with people with that belief, that limited belief, leading the way. So by the time a leader brings me in, it is starting to become unmanageable, because these little micro disagreements are rising to the level that's distracting from the ultimate, from the work.
Yeah. So, but when you come into these organizations, because I heard you, I was listening to you talk about the leaders, and it kind of went over to the people they hire. But how many leaders do you find that they don't have their own emotional intelligence in check, and how their leading may be impacting how their teams, their employees, their staff are reacting to them?
Anybody in a leadership position is going to struggle with managing their emotions and the emotions of others. So I definitely think it has a huge impact, Now, does the leader who bring me on go, and I need to be in the class too? Very seldom, right? Because there's a lack of self-awareness.
Wow.
But if they participate in the exercise and the training, in the back end, they go, I didn't realize I needed as much as I did. If you're here for the right reason, it's hard to miss the message, right? It's hard not to have an aha moment on how you can unlock. I help you unlock levels to yourself that you didn't probably even know exist. Leaders don't necessarily, from what I see, get real leadership training. They get like out of the box type training, but like there's a thing about being able to connect with everybody on your team, and that takes time.
It does.
Right? And because humans are actually pretty simple, right? We are really simple. As long as you feel that I authentically understand and care you,
yes,
you will not walk around guarded, and you will be open to whatever it is I need to lead you in. But if I'm bucking up against the things you believe, if I'm not taking time to understand you, if I'm not taking time to weigh in your perspective on things, then you feel unheard, which means that you don't value the relationship. So now when I come to you, I am only coming to you as a boss or a supervisor, and that's transactional. There are some leaders that they have their own belief that they ain't here to coddle people. I'm not here to babysit, and people grow like whatever they tell themselves, which keeps them from taking on this perspective. And if you go to a leadership role, you are going to have to care for people.
Because that's right there. That's a self-awareness, a self-regulation mindset, even for a leader, you know. And you're right. Sometimes, depending on organizations, companies, whatever it may be, some people will go up the ladder. You know, they've been there forever. They've, you know, gained the respect of people. So they've just moved up. They are dedicated to the company. And people are familiar with their leadership style. But when you get different titles and you move into different directions, you have to change with that, right? You have to adapt. And I think sometimes people stay stuck in what's familiar and comfortable. So how can leaders avoid that? How can they avoid getting stuck to where they're not the ones who, or they're able to recognize when they're not as aware as they think they are?
By the results that they're getting from the people that they're leading, right? So if you're not getting the people that you're leading are not giving you the results that you know you're supposed to be getting, that is the check engine light is on, right? Something is not flowing. So that's why self-awareness is the first domain, because you have to be constantly checking yourself, right? So when I'm doing executive coaching, you know, one of the things that I like to encourage my leaders is to get a org chart.
Okay.
There's the bigger org chart, but then there should be a mini org chart of who you are managing.
Yeah.
And from some of the exercises that I share with them, we ask that you really take time and think about who Melanie is. You know what I'm saying? Melanie, she's just moved out here. This is a new position. What might she be going through every day when she shows up? Right? Taking time to find out what's important to you.
Right.
Because if I'm having that type of conversation with you and you believe that it's authentic, then when I call on you to do the thing that you know you're supposed to do anyway, you're willing to do it because you feel like we're doing it together. And that doesn't take any more time than it does to fuss at people and then, you know what I mean, and be like, do this and then, right? Or however you go about giving directives or taking that authority role. I like to sometimes, parenting is not a good analogy, but the undercurrent of it is the same, because I think about like our children, like your kids are only listening to you like up until the point that they don't have to. Right? So there comes a point where you have to start. There's a point where you look at your child and you be like, right? And you can tell them do something, they do it. Then they start getting to the point where it's like, and you have to slide in from an authority to like a coach.
Right.
Even though you are the parent, but you still have to get a buy-in.
Yeah.
You know, my son's 16. I just can't just tell him what to do. He has to feel like we working together.
Yes.
Or he's not going to disrespect me, but he's not going to do what I told him to do.
But the relationships do shift.
They shift, and you got to be. And my point is, you got to recognize that. So, leading with authority is not probably the best way to do it. They already know you're in charge. Yeah. So, spend more time building relationships. And here's the other piece of that I learned, because at the top of my career, I was responsible for supervising 100 line staff, 20 first line supervisors, and 10 managers. Wow. As I was working out of class as the assistant superintendent at the probation department. And so what I always seen a lot is that if you just lead with just like telling people what to do, people just fall off real quick, and they gonna have their little silos and their little crews and stuff like that, and you're just fighting again. I made that mistake too. That's why I'm able to speak on it. You get to fighting against so many people, right? And it's much better to try to get a mutual agreement. But on the other side of it, the people who are just defiant, who just there's also this thing where leaders don't hold them people accountable.
Yes.
So you're working 4 times as hard, because the people who come to work and do their, because it's never everybody. Right. So the people who come to work and actually do their job, they're like, this chick get away with everything. Yeah. So when you trying to have a conversation with you like, I hear you though, but your problem's over there, because I do my job. So that even makes it harder for leaders. So what I'm trying to extract from that part of it, we also do have to hold accountable those who refuse, right, to get in alignment with what is going on.
Does it happen?
Maybe not here. Maybe not in certain.
Does it happen with y'all? No. Okay. I'm
willing to bet that a lot of people definitely. Everywhere I go. Yes. You talk about where I travel. There's not a place that I haven't traveled that people don't. And that maybe not here is a joke that I say when I say that in a group, and somebody might do what you do joke, and I'll be like, well, maybe not in your organization. They'd be like, shit.
Not here, but other places.
Like, it happened. You right. You on point. Right? So, and that's why relationship management is part of that framework, because you need to be intentional about the relationship that you manage.
All right, beautifuls. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of The Gifted Table. Don't you want more from DB Bedford? Well, guess what? Next week will be part 2 of learning more about how he became the real EI guy. So tune in next week. Don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up. Subscribe if you're not a subscriber. And I'll see you next time.